Well, what is up guys, welcome to Sunny Gaming. If you want to help support the channel, then go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Mid-year Mayhem is here, and to honour this really fun time in the Elder Scrolls Online, we're going to be taking a look at a PvP Stamina Dragonknight build today. This one is a little bit outside the box, really fun to play, and will be sure to cause some mayhem. This build excels in small group PvP, dueling and Battlegrounds, but you can use it in Cyrodiil as well just fine. Let's begin with the core details, starting with the race. We're going to be running an Orc for this, and because of the gear setup that we're choosing, being an Orc really does make a big difference to your effectiveness. I strongly recommend it for the speed alone. Next up is our food buff, which will be the Arteum Takeaway Broth. This gives us a nice spread of our main stats, but if it's a bit too rich for your blood, just go for the Dubious Cameron Throne. Your Munda Stone is always an important choice, and for this one, we're going with the Warrior. I usually go for the Lover on PvP builds, but we have enough penetration without it, and the extra damage and healing power from the Warrior will help us a lot. It's always useful to carry a variety of potions in PvP to boost your survivability, but your main one will be your standard weapon power potions, giving us stamina, weapon damage and weapon crit. The final part of the core details is our champion points. Starting in the warfare section, we have Ironclad for direct damage mitigation, Resilience for crit resistance, Thaumaturge for extra damage over time, and Master at Arms for a direct damage boost. In the fitness section, we have Rejuvenation for recoveries, Celerity for extra movement speed, which is very important on this, Sustained by Suffering for more recoveries when we have a negative effect on us that we apply ourselves, and Slippery for a free break free now and again. Now let's move on to our gear, which is where the build starts to get interesting. We're going to be using Heartland Conqueror on the body, which is one of my favourite sets, giving us a massive boost to both damage and resistances. Since we run two sharpened weapons on the front bar, we gain a ton of penetration from Heartland Conqueror, which turns into a huge amount of resistances on the back bar due to the doubled defending trait. Next up is the Sea Serpent's Coil, which is a really cool mythic item that grants us a really massive amount of damage output, but applies a snare to us. Being an Orc, choosing Celerity and using Swift Jewelry will offset the snare, keeping us in our enemy's face with all the more damage. Our other jewelry pieces are one piece druids and one piece trainee, which bumps up our health significantly. This is a really neat part of this build that allows us to increase our max stats rather than just going for a standard setup. We also use the Marsalok set, which is where the build starts to come together. When we perform a heavy attack, which for this can be a medium attack that is barely more than a light attack, we apply a short damage over time effect that is increased in strength for every negative effect the enemy has, and not just those applied by you. The Master's Dual Wield increases the power of our Rending Slashes skill by a significant margin, so it's definitely worth having here, because that will be an important part of our combo. It's useful to have the perfected version for the extra bit of crit, but definitely not essential. The same goes for our Vatashran Ice Staff on the back bar. The build works just fine with the normal version. This is here to boost our pressure by a lot and helps to apply those negative effects via the Elemental Susceptibility skill. Alright, let's move on to our skills next. On the front bar we have Rending Slashes, Shattering Rocks, Venomous Claw, Flames of Oblivion, Molten Whip and Ferocious Leap. And on the back bar we have Elemental Susceptibility, Noxious Breath, Resolving Vigor, Coagulating Blood and Hardened Armor with Corrosive Armor as well. Rending Slashes is boosted by our Master's dual wield weapons and applies a nasty bleed effect on top of the Hemorrhaging and Snare too. Lots of negative effects to boost Marsalok from one skill. Venomous Claw deals increasing damage over its duration, but also applies the Poison status effect as well, which works nicely with the rest of our build. Flames of Oblivion is a great skill because it gives us some automatic damage without having to think too much about it, on top of extra crit just for being slotted. If you feel like you need more healing though, feel free to choose the Cauterize morph, sacrificing some damage for survivability. Our main damaging tool is Molten Whip, which costs both stamina and magicka and gains increased damage if we use other Ardent Flame abilities before it, which we will be doing a lot. It also activates the off balance effect if the enemy is stunned, which counts as another negative effect from Marsalok. Ferocious Leap is both a burst damage ultimate and a survivability tool, activating the Battle Roar passive to give us resources back and a massive shield as well. Stack up your negative effects, activate Marsalok, hit the enemy with this and then execute them with your whip. Moving on to the back bar, elemental susceptibility is a very important skill for this build. It applies 3 separate status effects periodically, boosting Master Lock by 30% just on its own for no cost, and the burning effect will also give us Magicka back, which is important to us. Next up is Noxious Breath, which applies damage over time plus Major Breach, which counts as another negative effect and boosts our penetration against the enemy by almost 6k. Resolving Vigor is now a lot stronger with recent buffs, giving us our main heal, plus the minor resolve buff, which is really an amazing addition to the skill. Used often to stay alive. It isn't advised to use coagulated blood too much because it is expensive and costs Magicka. However, that being said, it can absolutely save your life in a tough situation, so it's worth having slotted here, and I feel it is very underrated on a stamina character. Our main source of major resolve is hardened armor, and it's important to keep this up at all times. Our healing received is boosted by 12% when a draconic power skill is active, which this will provide as well. Finally, we have corrosive armor. If you're in a situation where you're outnumbered or just want some peace to pull off your combo against the enemy, this is the ultimate to use. It will make your whip deal incredibly high damage by ignoring enemy armor and also ensure you can't be killed for 12 seconds. Alright, now let's check out the build in action, where you will see how we approach combat situations and how we choose our battles. Thanks very much, guys. If you want to help support the channel, then don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons and drop your thoughts into the comment section below. Take care, and as always, have fun.